Hello everyone, this is Ahmed Kazim from DragonBlogger.com, and today we'll be taking a look at the Gigabyte Aorus Z370 Gaming 5 motherboard. This motherboard is from Aorus Gaming series. It supports Intel 8th generation processor. It's also the Gigabyte's second high-end motherboard on the Z370 chipset, with the Gaming 7 on the top right now. It features triple M.2 slots, two armored PCI slots, Gen 1 and Gen 2 USB Type-C ports, and a tons of RGB. So let's go ahead and check this out. So on the top we have an image of the Aorus Falcon and the logo on top. Then we have the model name, Z370 Aorus Gaming 5, gaming motherboard, LG1151 socket, got RGB fusion, the Smart Fan 5 and it's VR ready, and it supports Intel 8th generation CPUs. On this side we have the logo, the model name and the supported CPU list again. Same on this side, minus the logo. Then over here we have some features listed in multiple language. Features like supports 8th gen CPU, DDR4 memory, dual BIOS, Gigabyte Ape Center. Same deal over here. Now let's have a look at the back side. So the back side of the box looks really crowded and all the interesting stuff is mentioned here. So we have a picture of the motherboard. Then we have 4 sections for different things like lighting, audio, cooling and connectivity. Here's a layout of the I/O ports on the motherboard. The I/O is visible on the motherboard picture as well. Then we also have a table here with detailed specification of the motherboard. Some features are listed here like NVIDIA SLI, AMD Crossfire, Sound Blaster X, etc. And above that we have some physical features listed like the USB ports on this motherboard. So that's pretty much it about the box. Now let's have a look at what's inside the box. Once you open the box, you're greeted with the motherboard with an anti-static bag. Let's go ahead and remove that and let's have a look at what other things are provided with this motherboard first. All the other accessories are present below this cardboard separator, and it seems like we got a lot of stuff with this motherboard. So we get about 2 packets of these SATA cables. There are 2 cables in each packet, so that's about a total of 4 SATA cables provided with this motherboard. Then we have one Wi-Fi antenna. This motherboard does support Wi-Fi internet. Then we have a SLI bridge and anti-static bag. This is a 2-way SLI bridge, got model number and revision written on it, and with the SLI written on the back. Then we have one 4-pin to 5-pin RGB cable. This is what the I/O shield looks like. We got an Aorus branding here and also text representing the accompanying ports. Then we got 2 thermistor cables. These cables are meant to monitor surface temperature of the hardware they're attached to. Just plug in this connector to your motherboard and attach the sensor to any hardware in your system, and you should be able to monitor them in the thermistor compatible software. Then we have a Gigabyte G connector. This is a very handy tool for installing the front panel power and reset cables, which can be a mess sometimes. We do get an Aorus badge along with the motherboard, so go ahead and install it on your chassis. Then this is a multilingual installation guide. Shows you how to install the motherboard into a system, which may or may not be different with the chassis or hardware you're going to use. And finally, we have the user manual. I think there's something inside. It seems like we also get a CD with all the software and stuff like that for the motherboard. And yeah, the user manual with everything you need to know about the motherboard. So that was everything that we get with the motherboard. Now let's have a look at the motherboard itself. You'll have to take out the motherboard from the anti-static bag first. And there it is, the Gigabyte Aorus Z370 Gaming 5 motherboard. To be honest, this thing looks like an absolute beast. It's pretty heavy as well. The theme looks great, and there's even the Aorus Falcon printed on the PCB. There's so much to cover about this motherboard, so let's start with the PCH or Platform Controller Hub heatsink. We have a huge heatsink over here with the Aorus Falcon on it. I think this lights up in RGB. Then we have this huge I/O shield going all the way to the bottom of the motherboard. There's even a plastic film over it, protecting it from dust and fingerprints. Then we have another heatsink over here, covering the MOSFETs below. There's a heat pipe going through here to circulate all the heat generated by the MOSFETs. Now let's have a look at the I/O port. Here we have a plethora of ports. So we got 2 yellow USB 3.1 ports, a PS2 keyboard mouse port, then 2 antenna connector. Then we have HDMI and display port. Then there's 2 blue USB 3.1 port, then 1 USB 3.1 Gen 2 port, and USB Type-C port. Then we have two USB 2.0s and a RG45 LAN port, and finally the 5-channel audio connectors. So that was the I/O options you get with this board on rear. Now let's talk about the memory. This board got about 4 DIMM slots, supports 64 GB of dual-channel DDR4 memory, up to 4000 MHz OC I believe, and it's even got RGB strips between the slots. Talking about RGB, we have another RGB strip on this side, so there's a lot of RGB going on over here. Now let's have a look at this section and all the ports it got. So we have a 12-volt WRGB connector here for our RGB LED strips. Then there's another LED port for the standard LED strips. Then this connector with the jumper on it is to assign either 5 volt or 12 volt to the LED strips in this area. So make sure what your LED strips are rated at and assign the voltage accordingly. Then we have another connector here. I'm not sure what it does as of yet, so I'll mention that in the review. The 24-pin power connector along with the pump fan header. Over here we have a USB 3.0 header and a USB Type-C header here. Then we have about 6 SATA ports. Some of these SATA ports do share lane with the M.2. I'll mention in the review about that, as I'm not sure which one shares port with which one. So that covers the left side. Now let's have a look over here. Here we have a Thunderbolt add-in port and the front panel header for power and reset stuff. Then we have 2 sys fan and 1 sys fan and pump header. Then we have 2 thermistor cable connectors. Then we have a LED debugger here. This is something I believe that every motherboard should have. Helps a lot with debugging when you have a problem with your system. Then we have 2 USB 2.0 headers, a TPM header. Then we have another WRGB connector, LED voltage switcher, and the standard LED connector. The port I'm not sure about says LED demo. And besides it is the front panel audio header. Below here somewhere we have the Realtek ALC 1220 codec, and these are the audio capacitors. Now let's talk about the PCI slots. We have a total of 3 PCI X16 slots. 2 of them are steel armored, while the bottom one is not. The top slot is running at X16, while the middle one runs at X8, and the bottom one at X4. When you're using the top 2 slots for SLI or Crossfire, they run at X8 each, as they share lanes with each other. Then we have 3 X1 slot as well. Now let's talk about the M.2 slots. We have a total of 3 M.2 slots on this motherboard. Some of these M.2 slots share lanes with the SATA port, so if you're using one, the other one gets disabled. I'll mention which ones exactly in the review. This is a 4-pin sys fan connector just above the first PCI slot. Then we have 2 more fan connector on top, one for CPU fan and other for water cooler. Then on the top right corner you'll find the 8-pin ADX power connector, and just besides it is another 4-pin sys fan connector. The socket is present over here like any other ADX board. This motherboard features a 8+3 power phase design. You can calculate by the number of these chokes over here. And over here we have the Turbo B clock IC. This lets you tweak with the base clock or BCLK when overclocking somehow. I'm not too sure about what it specifically does or how it's different from normal BCLK, so we'll find that out later. I guess that's about it for the front. Let's have a look at the back. So here you can see the PCI slot soldings. Then it seems like we also have an RGB strip embedded into the PCB. So yeah, that was the Gigabyte Aorus Z370 Gaming 5 motherboard. I'll be doing a detailed review on this board soon at dragonblogger.com. So don't forget to check that out. I'm with Kazim out.